Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Junger.
This is Daryl Aiden.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Mike Day here, and you're listening to The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yeah, Mike Day is a retired Navy SEAL, intelligence gatherer, a tactical expert. He's a scuba diver in open and closed waters, free fall, static line, parachute, helicopter, suspension techniques, breaching smaller. He's a SEAL. He's a badass. He's a combat veteran. And the next part that I'm going to tell you is bananas, because as a guy that's been on a lot of patrols, I will tell you, I've had bullets whiz by my head. I've been shot at, everything. Mike was shot one day 27 times and blown up by a grenade. So we're going to get into that. The reason why we're talking to him is that Robert Vera, who's been on a guest on the show before with Scott Husing and I, these guys are working on a project that we can't quite talk about yet, but Robert's like, let's have Mike on so we can get to know Mike and his story. So Mike, thanks for coming on. I love it that you're in a golf cart sipping on a beer while we're doing this. That's perfect for what we do around here. And Robert, thanks for the idea. This is a great thing. Tell us a little bit more about how you and Mike got to know each other.
Pleasure to be back, Pete. Thanks for having me and Mike. So I've known Mike for, a decade now, a little over a decade. We first met on the slopes of Mount Rainier. Mike was, after he got wounded, he came back and wanted to go climb Mount Rainier. So I was with a nonprofit group, and we took wounded veterans to the summit of Mount Rainier. And after being shot, as you said, 27 times, Mike, handled Mount Rainier pretty well, touched the summit there back in, I think that was 2010, so maybe a year or two after he got out. But yeah, great to be back here. That's how Mike and I first met. Been friends ever since. Hey,
Robert. So when you meet someone like Mike, as someone who hasn't seen any combat time, what's your? I know for me, I'm like, holy shit, 27 times. That is like I can't even comprehend that. And I've had friends that got all the way blown up, and it just blows my mind. How do you even process that?
Yeah, when Mike and I met, it was strange because I heard what happened, but I didn't really, you hear people sort of say, I thought they were being facetious, right. he got shot 1 million times or 20. I thought it was just exaggerated that someone got shot 27 times. And then when I met him, and when you see Mike, he got shot, they'll tell you, he got everywhere but his face, right? When you see him, I was like, wait a minute, can he climb a mountain? And when you see him, it doesn't look like he got shot. So I asked him, hey, Mike, what happened? And then he told me the story. And then I was like, oh my God, it's true. I can't believe this. And, it wasn't like he got shot and, some of them hit his body armor. Like most of them went in. And so it was just, the story is just so incredible. I mean, and anyway, Mike will tell it to you, but it was hard for me to understand how anyone, and then after really understanding what happened, how anyone could ever survive being shot that many times by the caliber around they were shot at the distance they were shot. It just defies logic. I still can't really figure it all out.
Yeah.
Well, so I was there.
Incredible story. I don't believe it.
You were there, yeah. So, yeah, Mike, I'm going to shut up. You were there. Tell us more.
Well, Bob's right. I was probably I would say probably one of my worst days.
Is there a worse day though? I mean, do you when you look, you're like, maybe this day was worse?
I don't know. I mean, you might sway one way or the other psychologically, but yeah, that one physically was definitely one of my worst days. No, that was, like Bob said, both arms, both legs, just everywhere. It was, and the fact that I was able to walk away from it was a miracle, a phenomenon, whatever you want to call it. I shouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, it's such an impossible thing and then also a grenade. Is that the same attack where you got hit by the grenade?
Yeah. So the sequence of, what happened in that room, the reason why the grenade went off was because one of the guys that was in the room he was actually trying to run out of the room, and I shot him, and he dropped to his knees, and luckily he held the grenade to his chest. It was enough to knock me out, but it didn't do too much damage. I was able to wake up, a little bit later and get back into the gunfight.
And then how much metal is left in your body after that? Were they able to pull everything out?
Other than some questionable things I have in a couple places, I actually just had a bullet cut out of my stomach, which, I mean, that's probably the funniest thing that's happened to me in my entire life, is that, you get shot in the butt with a bullet and it migrates all the way through up into your belly fat, and you have some buddies that have the ability to cut it out for you.
Yeah.
Then it was an accident to find it too.
It's
an X-ray and found that bullet in the stomach.
Was that all 7.62 rounds?
No, I was shot with a 7.62 by 3.9, which was, there were 2 AKs in the room. They had acquired some equipment from a previous ambush from U.S. forces. So I also got shot with an M4, with the green tip, the 5.56, and then 9 mil.
Jesus.
And
wow.
One way, because of the way I wound up laying down in the room, I think that 9 mil round that I just got dug out of me, which is, I think, probably the last I'm going to see come out of me from Iraq. That was a U.S. weapon that I got shot with.
Yeah.
That they got.
So what is really incredible about this, Pete, is that all of this happened in a room like 10 by 10. So the people that were shooting at Mike, there were 4 of them, were no more than 10 feet away.
Yeah.
And when I asked Mike, because I'm not an expert in ballistics, but I asked Mike about, like, man, how does that happen? When you count it, 16 went through Mike, and then 11 hit his body off. But I still can't figure out how a 7.62 round, like that close, not just one of them, but 16 of them, with assorted denominations, like either a 5.56 and a 9 millimeter. How just the ballistics, just the shockwave doesn't kill you. I still have not figured that out. Like how do you survive that type of trauma? I don't know. Like, and then, like there's been people that have literally died because they got hit in the armor, the body armor, and they've had either cardiac arrest or some other things just from the shock of that. Mike got shot 11 times in the body armor.
Yeah. 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 I was on a patrol where we got hit by an IED and a kid died, and there was not a scratch on him. Like, he was just killed by the concussion. And maybe he had some congenitive, thing that presented itself in that moment, but we didn't even know he was dead at first because he was just sitting there peacefully dead. It's crazy. And it just blows my mind, Mike, that you were hit that many times. Do you go on any missions after this, or is that the last mission you ever went on?
No, that was my last one. There is still some question. I'd like to get back on that horse. I wish I would have been able to go back and ride it and see if I can. I feel that I can go do it again without any question and not worry about it. But
yeah,
I think that's shit. Anything in life, if something kicks your ass a little bit.
Yeah.
Try to go do it again and make sure it doesn't rule you,
and
make sure that you're the one that's the master of your destiny type of shit. It's kind of
yeah.
Kind of funny to say it that way. But.
Yeah, that is a funny way to say it. But so there's so many detailed questions I want to ask you. So you go into the room, and obviously there's problems. How long is this? Because look, close quarters like that, 10 by 10 room, I've seen this, and it's horrible. How long did this last, or did you black out? What's the instance in the room like?
Oh, to make a long story short, I guess we can go through from not everything that got me to that door, but eventually, there's a lot of more story that got me to that room, and why I entered number 1 into that room. But I did. I entered number 1 into that room, and I took a left down the left wall, as soon as I entered the room, they just opened up on me, and I lost a rifle as soon as I got in the room and had to transition to my pistol. And I killed the guy down the left wall, but I was being shot. And, you know, a lot of people think in movies you're getting shot, it's like blowing you backwards. No, I was caving. I was collapsing to the ground. Yeah. And I fell next to the guy, the first dude that I had shot. And you know, all this was like Matrix, slow motion. I mean, to this day, I can tell you where I put every round, because that's how slow it was. Landed next to that guy laying on my left side, and I shot the guy that was running out of the room. And that's kind of where I lost consciousness, because that was the guy that had the grenade. You know, he blew up. I honestly didn't know that a grenade had blown up in that room until, you know, months later when we went through kind of an AAR after action. I've been tweaked on so many medications. I was lucky in my injuries that only 2 bones got hit. You know, it was, I don't know, almost sounds narcissistic if I say, I just got shot in the right places, but I exactly got shot in the right places.
Mike has a weird, like, he has this bullet wound on his leg, and if you asked me to point to where the femoral artery is, I would point to where the entry wound is. And on the backside, there's an exit wound, and it looks like the bullet actually curved around his femoral artery. It's the most bizarre thing.
Yeah. Wow.
I definitely, I mean, and I probably went about an hour without any kind of medical treatment. With, you know, my intestines were open, my bladder.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a whole lot about that whole thing that where I can explain why I shouldn't be here. I should have gone septic. I should have bled out. My femoral artery should have been blown out. But it was definitely, you know, one of the experiences in my life where I wish I could figure out how to do it just in everyday life, because it happens a lot when in high stress situations. You know, I've had some pretty high stress situations, and when I was jumping, parachute operations, or even when I was on the jump team. Well, quite honestly, that was the most dangerous job I did in the Navy until people started shooting at me.
Right.
It was fun. It was fun jumping in the stadiums and figuring out how to make parachutes fly different ways. It was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Your survival. This is like, I was thinking about the Secretary of State, William Seward, who was attacked in the conspiracy to kill Lincoln and everything else. And a guy stood over him, like in the mounted position, and just jabbed the knife down into the bed over and over again. But old Will Seward was so skinny, like the knife hardly ever hit him. You know, but by all rights, if you have someone on top of you just stabbing you until they're satisfied and they leave, you should be dead. But you're not. Do you feel like there's a divine purpose or some kind of higher purpose for you then, surviving this thing?
I think I did at one point, but now I'm pretty much content and knowing that it was an experience that added to my life, and I guess I'll figure out what happens next.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, can you just finish what happened in the room? Because you're on the ground, you pass out, you wake up.
You've taken the 2 guys out. The guy with the grenade is blowing himself up, and now you're laying there. Are you still getting shot at this point by the other 2 dudes?
No. So I'm unconscious. There's a couple rounds of me that the only way I can explain had to come from certain angles. So when I was unconscious, I think they stuck a pistol in my body armor, threw a couple rounds in me.
Jesus.
That shattered my scapula. So they had a couple rounds that went into my back. And there just wasn't holes in the body armor that lined up with the holes in my back. So they had to get in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And then the 2 rounds in my buttocks, the one I just recently got dug out by my buddies, those were both 9mm. When I was unconscious from that, people still tried to get in the room. There were still people, bad guys in the room that were kind of sawing up the door jam with the AKs. And, they did ask for status. I was unconscious because a grenade had gone off. I couldn't respond. You said you did you've done more patrols than I have.
Yeah.
And we always try to mitigate. We always try to mitigate everything. And you know what? I can tell you for without a shadow of a doubt that night, we didn't do anything wrong, but we always try to mitigate harm to anything. And you just can't do that in warfare. Right. It turns into controlled chaos, and try to make sure that only the players, the ones involved are the ones that get hurt, and it's not always the case.
Right. Well, let me ask you this then. So you're laying on the ground, you're passed out because you've been shot a shitload of times, and you come to when?
It was after everybody had left, because nobody actually saw me go into that room. So everybody had left the room. There's an aircraft prepped overhead to take care of the problem. As they were departing the target, I woke up and I re-engaged two more guys that had AKs and who were shooting from across the room over top of me through a window and engaging the guys that were leaving. Luckily only one more guy got hit as they were departing. Shit, I was in a gunfight with both of these guys inside of 10, 12 feet, whatever it was. It was a small place.
Yeah.
I had to do a magazine change. I mean, this was all with a pistol. And I am a terrible pistol shot, to be honest with you.
And your arms worked well enough that you could actually do a magazine change and keep engaging, huh?
Well, when you're pissed off like that, I think you can do a whole lot of stuff. It's kind of like the mom that's all monstered out. She's trying to save her kids because she's flipping her minivan to save her kids.
Yeah,
I was superhuman matrix strength right there.
Hold on, because you got to hear this, Pete.
Yeah.
This is incredible. So Mike's on the ground. He's on his side, on his left side. He has his secondary weapon in his hand. There's two guys that are shooting at his SEAL team out the window. He comes to. They start shooting at him. Mike, tell Pete, where did they shoot you and why did you have to do a magazine change?
Well, the magazine change is because you run it dry. So they didn't even realize I'd been shooting at them until I did the mag change and, re-engaged them. And then they started shooting at me. And it hit the foot of the magazine. It literally blew the hand grips off of that pistol.
God.
And, I did our malfunction drill. Your tap rack. But, it was just the whole thing, the sensations I had. That's probably one of the greatest sensations that I remember is feeling that pistol kind of fall apart in my hands. And it still worked. It still worked after I cleaned it up, after I got rid of the hand grips. I can remember the feel of the springs in my hands that are inside. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here if that thing didn't work.
Right.
I got two guys with AK-47 shooting at me, and I killed them both with a pistol.
Yeah. Yeah.
They got blown up.
They got blown up.
So that to me is one of the, this is real stuff. This is not made up, right? Mike gets shot in the gun on the ground after getting shot, I don't know how many times at that point, and at close range, they walk up to him and start shooting him, right?
Right.
Mike re-engages them with a pistol. They've got AKs, and he kills them both after his gun gets shot up.
Yeah.
It's the craziest. It's so I thought about that for years. I was like, man, how did that happen?
Yeah. And when so first off, you must have a fantastic doc there on the scene, because an hour later, now you're finally getting medical care. They're obviously, able to save you and whatnot. But when they go to start writing up the award, obviously you've been shot a lot, but how do they piece together all the stuff that happened in the room? Because you were there by yourself. Obviously some of that stuff you remember, but what about the stuff in between? Did they ever figure much of it out?
Well, there's definitely an award that I can't get because it requires two witnesses, and I'll never have that.
Right.
So, Pete, just to give you, Mike, you should, one of the bullets that snuck past Mike hit Mike's colleague in the neck. Just one.
Huh.
And, that killed that one guy. Mike, can you talk about what happened, how that all happened?
Yeah, Clark was, he was on a second deployment. He was 27 years old. All the armament was in the room that I had entered, but Clark took one round to the back of the neck, and he went up dying that night.
Yeah. That's heavy, man.
He wasn't even in the room the gunfight was in.
It's so shockingly unbelievable. I mean, not that I don't believe you, but it's just hard to even process all of this stuff where, yeah, I mean, someone else gets shot with one round and it just happens to be the right spot we lose somebody and you're laying there. How much blood did you lose? Did they have to just put 7 IVs into you at one time and just try to, it's almost like the cartoon thing where you drink the water and all the water comes shooting out of your body from 15 different holes. But, and I don't want to make light of it, but it is ridiculous to do this. So what on earth did they have to do to put you back together? Yeah.
There was I did a fundraiser for a brain injury center, and I don't think it went viral, but it did pretty good. We raised some good money. Bob did a good job setting up the foundation of. I think we raised about $150,000 for that, right, Bob?
Yeah, in like a couple of days.
It was a fun experience. Hopefully I can find a life in that here in the near future. In the benevolent world, and taking what I've learned and trying to help people out.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I need to add a couple quick things. So Mike, yeah, you're right. Like, he should have had septic. He should have had all these things. Not only that, he didn't have medical treatment exactly when he got out. He literally got on a medevac and they went out. Well, I talked to Mike's friend who is a casualty assistance officer, and he's like, yeah, we get on the plane from Iraq to Germany, and we're the last one on the plane. Is like a medical. He said it was incredible. The staff was just incredible. 2 doctors and 2 nurses flew with Mike from Iraq to Germany, and he's like,
there's no way you can talk about what happened to me without explaining how awesome those doctors are.
Navy
medicine. Oh my God. I was polytrauma like you read about. Luckily, I didn't get any bones hit, but I'm sorry, Bob.
So yeah, Mike, the guy that took care of Mike told me the story. He's like 2 flight surgeons and 2 flight nurses were with Mike and his friend the whole way, and Mike died 3 times on the flight. And they brought him back to life each time. That's how incredible, you know what I mean? And then to get to Germany to have he told me that Mike went from, and Mike doesn't remember sort of this, so that's why I asked him to talk to his friend, and Mike went from the airplane into surgery.
Right.
And had a number of surgeries there. So the fact that all of that is just incredible. How do you survive all of this? Keep going.
I know. Do you know how many stories? Because I remember getting on that aircraft. I remember that C-17. I remember being loaded onto that thing, and there was cots 3 high from the back to the front of that aircraft on both sides of that aircraft, and they were all full. Every one of them. There was dudes. There was chicks with amputations. I mean, I felt like my injuries were light because I could see that these people were just destroyed. That was kind of the meat factory that was coming out of that place. You just don't fly C-17s.
A C-17 for the audience is an enormous plane. You can put giant trucks inside of it. It is huge. So to have it full of people, you're talking a lot of people that are in some, and you don't get medevaced if it's a minor thing. Like if you break your ankle, you need something done, you're going to go. There's going to be some of those people, but this is a lot of people. Mike, one of the times that I came back from Iraq, I flew on a C-130 that was, a flying hospital, and it was the worst, just about the worst experience I ever had in Iraq because the smells, the turbulence followed by the groans, and just all the suffering that was going on. It was just really hard to deal with. I mean, it's a horrible thing, and I can't even imagine a C-17 full of people like that. That's just incredible.
Well, actually, I would prefer the C-17 over that C-130, but that's a aircraft. That C-130. That's a long flight. That's a long flight.
It was long and uncomfortable. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That was just, how many people were on that thing? It was just loaded from the front to the back, and
yeah. So when you're in Ramstein or wherever they launch or wherever they send you to get worked on, how long are you at the hospital before you start to be like, I think today I'm going to get up?
Well, see, that's another. I guess I do amaze myself with that because the timeline on this is incredible. My recovery was pretty incredible. They medevaced me off of that target. I didn't get any medical treatment until I got to the hospital in Baghdad. And up until that point, I really didn't even understand how many times I've been shot until they started rolling me around and calling out everything. And I eventually went out, woke up the next day after, quite honestly, I couldn't even tell you what they did to me that night.
Yeah.
I woke up the next day in front of that aircraft, flown to launch school. Evidently, from people that were hanging out with me, I died a couple times on the aircraft. I talked to probably 20 plus people that said they talked to me in launch school, and I don't remember anything. I can remember being taken off of the bus after I landed in the Bethesda area, and those doctors in that hospital, they might have got a bad rap at one point, but they took pretty damn good care of me.
So how long was it then? Like once you were?
I mean, I was supposed to be in the hospital they told my wife 3 to 4 months, and I was there for 16 days.
Jesus. Wow. So basically long enough to have everything close up and get the stitches out.
Long enough to piss enough people off to let me go.
Yeah. And did you walk out, or did you go out with the wheelchair?
No, I walked out.
Of course you did. Okay, let me back to this mission that you guys went on. Was there, what kind of intel did you guys have? Were you guys expecting trouble? I mean, obviously you're always expecting trouble, but was this like, because I've been on patrols where like, everything is in question. If things break down, we're going to do this and that. We were prepared for things to go really sideways. Was this one of those kind of missions or no?
Well, like you say, you always prepare for the worst. We've been doing pretty well on this deployment. We've been doing a lot of work. This was actually a turnover operation with another unit, and I mean, we didn't expect any more than the worst than any other night, and it just happened to be, one of the nights that got a little more energetic than most.
Energetic.
Because it was definitely one of our most up close events.
Robert, what do you make of all this? 16 days, all that kind of thing.
Well, I've known Mike now for 10 years, and I can just say, like, he's one of the most interesting, most interesting man in the world. Mike Day is that guy.
Yeah.
And, I sort of see
I need that beer commercial.
I know. And I see it from kind of a different, I see things that Mike doesn't see about himself.
Right.
So one of the things I noticed about Mike is that everybody that I knew that I've met some people that know Mike and have worked with them, and they all say the same thing: best platoon I ever worked with, or best group I ever worked with. And then when you look at the younger guys who used to work with Mike, one of them has received a Medal of Honor at Byers. He was on that mission, on that platoon. He was in that. So Mike, and then even today, Mike right now, he's out training the next generation of SEALs with, 50 plus pounds of body armor on, running around all day with them.
Yeah.
At twice their age.
Right.
And I'm amazed that one, he can still do it. And I just see him as, wow, this is incredible. How does he work at that level all the time? But I know Mike's work ethic, for example, when Mike got back, and I think this is probably, in my mind, the greatest work that Mike has ever done. Mike worked for 6 years after he got out for the SOCOM Care Coalition.
Okay.
In a really, I think, a difficult time in the community, right? A lot of people are getting hurt. There's a lot of stuff that needs to go on, and Mike was their care advocate. And I think having Mike Day show up at your door, and everybody knows who he is, right?
Right.
I think that gave people a lot of hope and comfort.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero, co-host of the Break It Down Show and fellow producer here at Lions Rock Productions. And I'm proud to announce our newest show. It's called Justice. Season 1 is going to be a deep dive into some of the cases I personally worked on as a licensed private investigator, and you'll get a unique view into the criminal justice system that may just challenge some of your personal notions about how it should work and open your eyes in ways you never imagined. So keep your ears open for Justice, a brand new podcast from Lions Rock Productions to iTunes, Stitcher, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
And everybody knows who he is, right?
Right.
I think that gave people a lot of hope and comfort, and he did. Mike literally got people what they needed, and he worked that job just like he worked his SEAL job. So to me, like when I look at Mike, I'm like, wow, what an incredible story of a guy who literally shouldn't be here, who continues to go and does the work at such a high level, and is not like, you know, Mike, you can obviously tell he's a little reluctant to talk about stuff because he doesn't bang his chest. He doesn't say, he just does the work, right?
Right.
And I think he's the perfect guy in some ways to be training the next generation, right? So like, hey, this is how you do it and do it right. But yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I'm excited to see what Mike does next.
Those guys keep me young.
It sounds like it. Yeah. So, and Robert, when you meet someone like Mike and you hear that, like one of the things I've picked up from doing the show is, you know, whoever it is, whatever thing they've gone through to get to where they're at now, it's impossible. You would never want to change positions with him or any of the other people that have lost legs or lost their sight or, you know, had some kind of affliction. But what do you get from seeing Mike day to day? Like, how does that change Robert Vera?
Mike has a resiliency skill set that he's for some reason, or I don't know how Mike really does it, but he's able to put things in a context that doesn't overwhelm him. He's able to keep going. And that, I think, we all need that. We all need at least some of that, is the ability to sort of keep going despite whatever happens. And Mike has mastered that. I think part of it is he's built a community around himself, some of that, but he just has a physical resiliency and emotional resiliency that allows him to sort of, it's not that it doesn't affect him, because it does. It's just he's able to work through things in a way that doesn't overwhelm him. And I think that's really what you know, I've learned from Mike. Is like, okay, Mike, you know, he can handle this stuff, and he does, and he handles it pretty well. But that's what I know about Mike, is that this is really incredible that he can go through all this stuff, literally all this stuff. I mean, you know, like, you know, it'd break anybody, you know, and he still just keeps going.
It always works out, just not the way you always expect it to.
And that's how he does it. Like, but it's just, I mean, it's just really interesting to be Mike's friend, right? To just experience this with him and to go through it with him. It's just really interesting to know. I mean, I had no idea. I didn't know Mike when he was a SEAL. I frankly, I didn't even know, like, what was it really? He got shot 27 times. I had no idea the extent of it. You know, you hear about that, you think, well, maybe he got shot, but like literally, Mike got shot in places that people get shot once and they don't live.
Yeah.
And so to have him do that, and then to hear about
in places you don't want to speak about.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. Mike, when you're sitting there, you're in the hospital, when it's 2 years, 3 years, however many years later, like it must have kept coming back, this experience, because it's such it's not just a fence post that you can swing your whole life on, but it's everything. Like, it must have just constantly came back to you like, holy shit, I'm still alive. Or maybe not. I mean, how do you reckon with, I mean, people get significant PTSD. I've got PTSD from things that are not as significant as that. And yet you're still there just kind of figuring out, like, are you still processing the shock 10 plus years later, or how did you figure that out?
I think that's a constant thing for all of us, because, you know, everybody's up and everybody's got a different threshold. I can honestly tell you, I didn't have PTSD from that. It was something that, you know, I think probably my childhood had conditioned me to be able to accept and not really have it bother me. You know, there's a lot of us like that out there where your childhood conditioned you either to be able to accept stuff like that or not. But shit, that's the secret to life right now. Everybody's looking for, you know, the secrets of resiliency. How do I how do I get past the next kick in the balls?
Yeah.
How do I, quite honestly, the best way to get past the next kick in the balls is to be able to deal with the current one and know that there's another one coming. That's just going to be all right. And like I said, everything always works out, just not the way you expect it to.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a thing I say a lot too. When, we try to plan these things for the show, and sometimes weird shit happens, and I don't take it. I do my best not to ever take it personally. And I also, I say, it'll work out when it works out, or it won't, and when I say, or it won't, it's not because I'm negative. It's like, sometimes people die. Sometimes I might die, you just don't know. And then it won't matter anymore. So if it won't matter, then, let's just not get too bent out about it now, because either it will work out or something else will work itself into that space. You're right. But that is a unique perspective, I think, to folks that have had, bullets whiz by their head or big booms go off all around them. I remember when I first got back, when I'm like, I'm done doing this stuff. I'm going to stay home and I'm not going to go anymore. I tried to get into yoga, and it would crack me up because I'd be sitting there with a bunch of middle-aged ladies doing yoga. And a month before, I was with a bunch of infantry dudes, going on patrols. And life was just a funny thing where just, totally different circumstances surround you.
You're doing yoga in the wrong place.
Well, yeah, that's probably true. You are teaching SEALs, but what do you do in your spare time? Like what occupies your mind and takes you away from, day-to-day work?
Well, what occupies my mind is surfing, and everything I try to do in my free time outside of managing my life and making sure everything is running all right is surfing. If I could wake up and go surfing every day, I would do it. That's kind of what I'm working towards right now. Pretty simple, but that's kind of what keeps me calm.
Yeah.
Everybody has to have that, some kind of project, some kind of, something different than cutting the damn grass. That's shit you have to do. Something that calms you. And
has it always been things on the water for you, or is that something you found later in life?
No, it's always been on the water. I definitely love the tropics. That's where I need to be able to drop myself, somewhere in the tropics.
Yeah.
If the surf is crap, maybe go swim for some fish.
Uh-huh. Keeping it pretty simple. The other thing I was going to ask you is, has anybody from like EA Sports or any of those gaming companies approached you about you being like an unlocked superhero, like on, Ghost Recon or something, where you're like, this is the guy that cannot be killed? And Mike Day walks in and you unlock the Mike Day character. Has anyone, it's got to be something that someone's asked you about.
No, I've had some, interesting, people ask me to do like Naked and Afraid.
Uh-huh.
Naked and Afraid, they don't pay you enough to get rid of a security clearance.
Yeah, and I also don't pay you enough for whatever pathogen or other thing that gets into you that makes you sick for real, because that thing's no joke. What other kind of opportunities have come your way? What other weird things?
There's definitely been an interest in the story. I mean, it takes me a little bit to be able to step aside from it and look at it and see, my life story, and it is kind of crazy.
So Sylvester Stallone asked to see we had submitted a sort of a treatment. He asked to see it. So he set up it's called Balboa Films, and he's asked to see a treatment of the story. So that got sent over to him. So maybe one day Sylvester Stallone will play Mike Day in his biop or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. There needs to be like an epic biopic of all the SEALs and all the adventures you guys have written about, because I know some people are hard on like the community for talking about this stuff, but you got to. I mean, it's incredible these stories. I mean, look how many World War II books and stories there are, and they still come out. This is our war, and it's incredible what you guys have done and how you've steeled yourselves against all of this hardness. I mean, I'm sure you'd rather, be part of the leapfrogs and go jump into stadiums than get shot at by a bunch of Al-Qaeda dudes. But man, if no one else has told you, thanks for just all of that tenacity and hard work. And just, I talk to a lot of different people in the military world, and sometimes I talk to the strategic theoretic people, and what they can't account for is a Mike Day being in that room ready to go and take people out, as he's been shot over a dozen times at that point, 24 times ultimately. And it's It's incredible the amount of perseverance that someone who wants to be a SEAL can put into a fight against the person who's an ideologue but doesn't have that extra thing, man. And I admire that about you. And and you're just an incredible guy. I can't believe I believe your story, but it's hard.
If I was an ideologue.
Oh man. Yeah. That would be crazy. That'd be crazy. Tell us a little bit about this leapfrog stuff so we can understand what it means to do that. Because obviously you didn't just go on patrols on a team all the time. You did other things.
Oh no! I mean, I got the Navy in 1990, 89, and got to my first SEAL team in 1990. So there wasn't a whole lot going on. I made a lot of deployments. That was right during the Gulf War, and we call it the Gulf War, but that literally lasted less than a month.
Right.
I'm not trying to minimize anything that happened to anybody, during that time frame, but I mean that happened fast, so fast that they couldn't deploy us to get over there fast enough. Whether soft wasn't being really used over there anyway. I mean, that country just collapsed on itself.
Right.
They didn't take a whole lot of pressure.
Yeah, other than lasing targets or whatever, there wasn't a lot of direct action for you guys to do because there just wasn't enough time.
One of the jumps I would like you to explain is, Pete, have you ever seen, it's in St. Louis, the Arch?
Yeah.
So Mike did a jump in that arch. Mike, did you actually, I know like that you stack, did you actually go through the arch on the jump?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. The beer on the golf cart's getting me diverted.
Did you go through the arch on the jump? Because I've seen it. I don't know if anybody went through it, though.
Yeah, the jump team was awesome. Well, we got to do jumps that people would pay thousands of dollars to do, and we did. We flew through that arch, and there would be a whole crowd on the ground, and there's only one place to land. Because to your back is the river.
Mm-hmm.
You fly through the arch, and that thing is actually that thing is ginormous. It's a lot bigger than I thought it was. From pictures.
Yeah.
So flying to that.
Were you stacked up when you flew that? Like, did you have 4 guys stacked up on top of each other?
No, we would take 3 or 4 guys to that thing and then break it and land. It was, that thing is huge. The stadium there is actually harder to jump into than the arch because, just right out of frame if that picture was 180 degrees. What is that stadium there?
Bush.
Yeah, Bush. It's got a lot of arches across the top of it. And when you fly through that thing, it just deflates your parachute. Like every time you fly through it.
Huh.
And it's not just 1 or 2 people. It's like everybody that flies through it. It's like something grabs your parachute and collapses it and drops you through.
That's exciting.
So that stadium's actually a little bit, it's a lot harder to land in than, flying through that arch.
Yeah.
But the jump, we got to jump into a lot of stadiums. It was, the first couple, it was very, you're jacked up, you're scared, but then you realize, man, it's just huge. It's a huge surface area. You just need to know the specifics of each stadium, where they hang the wires, for, flying, the cameras.
Yeah.
Or, how they lift up the net to catch the ball for the kicks. So each stadium had like little rules, stay over the green and you're clean. I think that was like, a couple stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
But what a blast to jump into a lot of times out of a military aircraft into a football game or a baseball game, and you can hear the people from 3,000 feet up just screaming.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Hey, so I've had you for about an hour, and I have one more basic question, then I'll let Robert ask whatever he's got. But obviously, this is one of the hardest days in the military for you. What's your best day in the military? What's your favorite thing that stands out?
I don't know. There was definitely quite a bit. I think the best compliment that I ever got was guys that I worked with in that platoon. They went away and came back and said, "Hey, like we really thought you were an asshole when you were the boss, but we wish we had you back when we went through our second one. So that kind of confirmed that I didn't do everything right, but I was appreciated in that job. And I definitely appreciated those guys because they made the job easy. Yeah, really.
I learned a lot from Mike over the years, and his approach. Like, what I love about Mike is that, you know, he'll listen to you and then he'll do exactly what he wants to do. Right? He doesn't he just does exactly what he wants to do. One of his, like, Mike, when he was at Care Coalition, you know, he would go and test. He's like this. Mike will test everything, right? So he went to this place, you know, alternative treatment places for TBI. And so one of the things I learned from Mike is that, you know, that he was really interested in the treatment of PTSD and wanted to do something other than medication. And so one of the things I learned is that Mike went and had a cheek swab for certain types of medication. I frankly had no idea this existed, right? And I count myself sort of a person that's in the know about these things. He went and had a cheek swab, and they actually came back to him and said, Mike, you cannot take these types of drugs, which are SSRI drugs, serotonin inhibitors, because they'll have this adverse effect. But Mike, can you talk about, his name was Dr. Beck. Can you talk about people will probably be skeptical about this, but I've now become a firm believer in gut flora and all this sort of this idea that your gut controls your brain. Can you talk about Dr. Beck and the things that you did with him that I think will become mainstream that are alternative now?
Oh, I wouldn't call them mainstream or even alternative now. I mean, it's more of the holistic approach. Quite honestly, if people would just take personal responsibility, they would see that, you know, a good diet, you know, getting rid of preservatives and, you know, getting rid of shit. You know, it's hard. If you could get rid of all sugar or as much as you could, it would get rid of, you know, a lot of our medical conditions to include our psychological health in this country, which is obviously a problem with the school shootings. And, you know, from my experience, you know, at the Care Coalition, watching people from all kinds of, you know, everything from ALS to, you know, cancer to combat injuries and, you know, traumatic brain injuries and how things were treated. With traditional medicine, we're always going to look at the symptoms and not go after the causes. But, you know, gut health is not. It's becoming more mainstream, more than, you know, than what Bob says. But I don't think you can fix anything unless you get somebody's body's physiology straight. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, a whole lot different than the battery that requires, you know, certain things to make it operate. And if you're not putting that in, and we've known it for years, people just need to take personal responsibility and take care of themselves. It would fix a whole lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Mike he found a physician that did that. And Mike, would you say that overall, the test that he did and the diet program they put you on, do you think that was, you know, would you say it's night and day? Or would you say it like helps marginally?
No, it was completely night and day for me because I was in a pretty deep state of depression, and the clinical reason why I was in a deep state of depression was because I had bad flora in my stomach, and I literally I wasn't able to, you know, my body wasn't working to the point where I could operate. You know, I was vitamin mineral deficient, and this doctor found it. It's funny, a lot of these doctors, a lot of these holistic doctors, they know a lot about the neurological system, but a lot of people say they're not doctors. A lot of them are like chiropractors. They're looking at optimum human performance, and they're looking at how to make your body work better, and, you know, psychologically and physiologically. But it's definitely connected.
So I thought that was a huge breakthrough, at least for me, because when I looked at, you know, I've been involved in the veteran community now for the last 10 years, you know, as a mentor, and obviously, you know, for us, you know, who have been in the community, you know, the statistic of, you know, veteran suicide is kind of lost on us because we have the names of those people, right? Yeah. Mike said something interesting. He's like, you know, I bet you if you tested all those people with that same cheek swab, you know, had an adverse reaction to, you know, SSRI drugs, they would probably have that adverse reaction. That medication that they're on, may have caused them, to commit suicide.
Sure.
Which I have a tendency to believe that may be true. But Mike's approach, I think, was one that was, Mike literally had to go against the grain to do what I think is logical. And, I'd urge anybody who's, listening to do the same, to just find out, look, we're not minimizing it, saying, hey, why don't you take a more holistic approach? Certainly, I think we could find, get information to them if they'd like to find out more, but just take a more real holistic approach, sort of, okay, let's see if there's other issues that could be resolved that would make your condition better. So I think that's really, I learned that from Mike, that he was willing to go through that process without judgment, without sort of saying this is not going to work. He just literally went through the process, and other people just either don't know about it or just don't think it'll work or don't want to go through the process. And I think that it's important that people, if they are struggling with those things, just go through the process and see what happens. Don't preclude anything.
Sound advice. Let's put better things into our body so that our body has better fuel, and hopefully we get some better outcomes in terms of our mood and our energy level and all those things. That's always a good reminder as I get ready to go eat a big old pile of nachos.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention that I'm not sure when that's coming out, but Mike will be at SHOT Show with the Dead Foot Arms group over at, anybody's going to SHOT Show, Mike will be at SHOT Show with Dead Foot Arms, and they'll be in the law enforcement, military, or I think it's called law enforcement and military arms area at SHOT Show. So he'll be there. It's 21st to the 25th of January.
Yeah, the SHOT Show is going to be in Las Vegas for those who are going, and for sure to look up. I think Johnny Walker's going to be there. Everybody's going to be at that. What else is coming up for you guys?
Not a whole lot. Back to work tomorrow, and then see what happens after that.
Yeah, Mike will be at SHOT Show, and then I'll probably be with him at in July at TriggerCon, and then Mike will be at Freedom Expo in Tucson on May 2nd. He's one of the recipients of an award there. So, but we can give you these links on the website. Want them down to Mike, or be a bunch of folks there.
All right. Well, listen, I've had you guys for an hour, and I appreciate it. We'll definitely, if these other projects come to fruition, definitely want to have you come back on and get a chance to do this again, because it's just, I don't often get shocked on the show, or I just am floored with the reality of the person I'm talking to. But man, you accomplished that today, Mike, and that's saying something, because there's hundreds and hundreds of shows, and it's just incredible. Your story stands out as something I'm going to be telling people about it for a long time, because well, in case you didn't know, it's a miracle that you're alive, and I'm thankful for it, and I'm thankful for both of you guys coming on.
Well, I appreciate the time, and you get on those nachos.
I'm gonna. It's the new year. I'm already giving up on my diet.